This is Curious Formula, and you're here on Wednesday Night Live. One thing for me. Well, I want you to do three things for me. I want you to subscribe, like, and comment below. Be a member of this channel. Hit the notification bell and to let you know when we go live. We go live every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But I'll talk about a few other things first before we go into that sort of deep topic, because I know that's what you guys really want to hear about. But I want to talk about Cori Bush's loss and what that means for progressives. If you haven't been following this race that well, you should know that Cori Bush, Congresswoman from the great state of Missouri, just lost her primary race to Wesley Bell in what can be described as the most expensive race potentially in Missouri history. Yes, we had a lot of money spent there from the Israel lobby, a lot of money spent there by folks who are anti-progressive, a lot of money spent there with people from unions who did not appreciate Cori Bush's vote against the infrastructure bill. And although the media is painting this as a problem in terms of the Israel-Gaza, Israel-Hamas war that's happening right now, and see Cori Bush as somebody that was harmed, as an unintended target, if you will, of the back and forth that's happening in America and other places, when we talk about this issue, the problem that she had really goes deeper than just this particular issue. It's right on the heels of Jamal Bowman's loss in New York. And what I think happens is, frankly, it's progressives have lost their way. And I can say that. I am considered a pragmatic progressive. I'm somebody who has always supported the progressive mantra, the ideology, the policies, the important stances that they have on a lot of issues. Come on in. We like you here. This is Craig. This is one of my good buddies here who's a fellow. Craig, say hi to the folks in the audience here. He's another guy who's awesome dude. But we're talking about sort of what the problem is with progressives that go way beyond the Israel-Hamas war. What is the problem? Well, one of the big problems are that progressives are out of sync with the national governing consensus. As you heard me say before, there's a real problem with progressives sort of pushing the partisan line, going, for their ideology over pragmatism, over what can actually be done. I'm reminded of some of the things that Jamal Bowman used to put on social media when we were talking about the infrastructure bill, when we were talking about sort of, making sure that there was additional dollars that the Biden administration wanted to put into that particular bill that would help with early learning and a number of other things coming out of COVID to help families survive, and really creating another social safety net for families coming out of COVID, for families during COVID. And the infrastructure bill was essentially stripped of all of those things, mainly because you had Joe Manchin in the Senate, the pivotal 50th vote that was necessary to pass the legislation in the Senate, basically saying I didn't want that. And instead of compromising with the Senate version that could pass, many within the progressive caucus in the House of Representatives opted to not vote for the bill. And indeed, Jamal Bowman, being an example of this, put in there in his tweets and in his social media content that we could have had all of this. We could have had all of this, but because of this, we don't have that, and so I must vote no. Progressives have to learn this just the way I learned it. It's not okay just to be right on the issue. It's not okay just to get the clicks and the likes and the tweets and the big ups on social media. It's not enough to get, the applaudits of folks who are similarly situated and share your ideology for fighting the good fight. People elect people to Congress to get things done. We call it bringing back home the bacon. And as a former elected official, it didn't matter all the progressive things that I supported and voted for. It didn't matter all the new ideas that I wanted to do that were progressive ideas. What people wanted to know in my city as a city councilman was, what's the crime rate in the city? What's the crime rate in the ward? How many kids are graduating from school? What dollars am I bringing back for schools? What dollars am I bringing back to fight crime? How many more police am I putting on the payroll to do that? How am I addressing the concerns of citizens, not with legislation, but with constituent service? So one of the things that Jamal Bowman lost the reasons why Jamal Bowman lost. And one of the reasons why I think that Cori Bush lost was because of poor constituent service. So in addition to not being part of the national governing consensus and voting against things like the infrastructure bill, which despite not having what it had or we all wanted it to have, had some things that fundamentally would change America. Voting against those things are terrible, but also not doing your constituent work to meet the needs of your citizens is also a problem. The progressive folks in Congress typically do not do well with doing constituency service. Yes, fighting to get the Medicare bill taken care of, trying to figure out Social Security on the any federal program that benefits your constituents, trying to figure out how you can do what's best for them. That's half the job. But when you're seen, and I'm not trying to say that they may not have done this, but when you're seen as only being on the picket line, when you're seen as only being somebody who is there to march for $15 an hour minimum wage, but you're not fighting to make sure that whatever the minimum wage is back in your home district, that's being used for the benefit of your residents. These kinds of sort of fighting the good fight and being a principled fighter, but not delivering on what is necessary in terms of what your residents actually need, is actually not good political work. It's not good elected official work. It's not good constituency work. And constituents will remember in November, as we always say. The last thing I'll say about sort of the Cori Bush progressive phenomenon that's a problem is that Black people overall are not progressive. And I know that's a shock to some people who believe that. Come on in. You can come on in. We're live, but we're open to everybody coming in. Leah, come on, say hi. Another Pahara fellow who's here. She's saying hi to the crowd here.
Hey, friends.
We're just getting started, so we're waiting for the crowd to come in. But Leah's here, and hopefully we can get her on the show one day to talk about what she's doing, the work she's doing in education, which we're going to talk about later in the show. So make sure you subscribe, like, and comment, and make sure you stay abreast because we're going to talk some good education stuff in a minute. But Black people are not progressive overall. And the big problem is that they're seen as such by the progressive wing of the party. There are certainly things that the African-American community specifically do like and do support that are within the progressive ideology, within the progressive platform of ideas. But by and large, overall, if you poll Black people about where they stand on a number of issues, they are almost antithetical to the progressive outlook on life. I think about the Congressional Black Caucus as a good example. Very progressive ideology, but there are a number of things that they support that are probably considered big business. There's a lot of things that they support in terms of maybe like fossil fuels. There's a lot of things that they support that do not fall in line with the Progressive Caucus. Indeed, you have some CBC members that are members of the Progressive Caucus, in Congress, but the majority are not. There's a reason for that, because the CBC is essentially a moderate Democratic organization.